I'm Corbett Wall with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, November the 26th, brought to you in part by VITALIX by Bimeda. Recharge your herd. VITALIX is an oral nutritional supplement of trace minerals and vitamins to help provide nutrients to your cattle. With one less needle and a few less worries. For more information, go to bimedaus.com. Also, Beaver County Stockyards. No sales this week at Beaver County Stockyards. Are closed both today on Tuesday for your feeder cattle auction, and then on Wednesday there'll be no cow sale this week. But next week they'll have a good feeder cattle run on Tuesday, and then have a big replacement special on Wednesday. I'm actually going to be going up there to help sell that sale. But they've got an impressive offering of bred heifers, bred cows, be a few pairs, not too many, but be an impressive offering there, including 150 black and red Angus bred heifers. They're going to be 1,000 honest 3 to 7 year old bred cows, including in that going to be 100 head of 3-year-old first calf heifers, and then they'll be coming back as bred with their second calf. They do have a northern origin, come originally out of Montana there, and they're coming close by from Forgan. Got 125 head, 3 to 5 year old, one deal from Borger. It's a complete dispersal. Got another 280 head off one deal, 4 to 8 year old from Pampa that they are selling back a little bit from losing some grass there. So a lot of honest cows there. Be really good opportunity to get some replacements bought if you would like them. They're going to have 5 registered Charolais bulls there from Mike Cantrell, and then another 15 registered Angus bulls. The main thing I want to tell you guys about is next week at both sales, both Tuesday and Wednesday, they are going to have fundraiser auction for Josh 9, who I told you about last week. He is really a great young man. He's got a young family there. He's a young cattleman, not just a cowboy, but he's an integral part of that market there. He knows what's going on, works the ring, can tell you whose cattle they are when they come in without looking, knows everything that they've had. Really an impressive young guy there, and just a really nice guy. Got young kids and everything, and has recently found out that he's been stricken with a very dangerous disease there that's going to take a lot to fight. And so they are going to be having a rollover sale on Tuesday. Mike Cantrell, an extra Charolais bull that he's bringing in on for Tuesday, they're going to have a rollover sale on that. Now Jeff Slatton, owner and manager, said he is going to end up buying that Charolais bull, and then he's going to bring it back around on Wednesday and have another rollover. They've got a goal of raising $100,000 for Josh 9 to fight this disease. And if you would like to participate in that, get on to DVAuction. You can bid on the rollover. You can simply leave a donation with the office there, and it'll go in the same place. But we would really like for you to help with that if you absolutely can. But check out all of Beaver County Stockyard sales on DVAuction.com. Trump ain't playing. None of us really expected him to. That's what we voted for, is because we wanted him to make some bold moves and some big changes. So what's the latest that we saw? Well, actually he came out on Monday evening and actually said on his social, Truth Social, that he is going to be putting a 25% tariff on all products coming from both Canada and Mexico on January the 20th when he takes office. And you think, oh my gosh, those are our best neighbors. He's wanting them, and is this a threat? I don't know. That's the thing about Trump. That's what makes him such a great leader. He's just crazy enough. We don't know whether that's a threat or not. And so Canada and Mexico will both be taking it very seriously. What he wants them to do is to help stop illegal immigrants into coming into this country and bringing a lot of deadly drugs with them, namely fentanyl. And if they would help on their side of the border instead of just having these big mobs coming up like it's in Mexico now, and they just watch them as they parade through their villages and towns coming up to the border. If they would put a stop to that on that side, with us increasing the security on this side, then we could get that deal stopped, and we could get it stopped in a hurry. The problem is, if you're wanting to cross products from Canada or Mexico, you're looking at a 25% tariff. That's going to include cattle too, guys. So if we didn't have a big enough a hurdle on trying to cross some Mexican cattle into this country, and you say, fine, just leave them down there, we don't need any more cattle. We're running extremely tight on cattle numbers, and in the Texas Panhandle, namely right where I'm sitting, in Canyon, Texas, and 200-mile radius all around here, this industry relies on Mexican cattle to stock these wheat pastures, to fill a lot of these feedlots. And so this is going to change things a lot. And I told you on our last visit that after we saw the screwworm deal come out, and that they've stopped the border, they've closed the border for now. We don't expect it to open until about the middle part of January, about the time that these tariffs will come, if Trump actually does follow through with that threat. This is huge in the cattle industry, guys. If you're not able to cross, they cross 1.5 million cattle every year or more. It's been the most we've seen in a long time, because they've been going through such a horrible drought in Mexico for the last year or so. But this is major, and we saw already, if your stocker cattle can handle any more demand, I don't know where it would come from, but I told you guys this a month ago when we saw this moisture on this wheat. And we saw that there was going to be a ton of wheat, and people are just falling all over themselves trying to find something to graze that wheat, and they will turn cattle out on that wheat whether it makes any sense or not. It's against their religion to watch that wheat grow out there without something putting cheap pounds on by grazing it. So this is a major deal with the screwworm having the border closed until likely mid-January, and then now Trump threatening to put 25% tariffs on all products coming over from both Mexico and Canada. This is this is a big hurdle here, and so we're expecting people to continue to push harder on these stalker types. And by saying stalkers, I mean all the way up to 800 pounds. I was talking with a major feeder on Monday, and he says, I'm trying to buy 8-weight cattle to put into my feedlots, and he says, I'm getting knocked out by people that are turning those 800-pounders out on wheat. Well, if you're taking fat cattle to 1,600 pounds, suddenly an 800-pounder is a stalker again. So you're not worried about that 8-weight steer weighing 11 when he comes off the wheat. In past times it would have been hard to sell that feeder animal weighing that heavy. Not anymore. 1,000, 1,100 pound feeder steers, it's hard to make a heifer that big just grazing, but they just go right along and bring big prices too. So it's changed up the industry quite a bit, but this lack of being able to move cattle across the Mexican border, this is a major jolt to the industry here. But if you've got light stalker cattle to sell, and like I say, all the way up to 800 pounds, you're sitting in the driver's seat, especially if they have a condition that is advantageous to turn out. If you're bringing cattle in that are pus fat and been pushed hard with supplemental feeding or eating a bunch of silage or something like that, people aren't going to take those and turn those back out. They will melt on you. They'll go harder backwards than they will forward. So, but if you've got something in a green condition that is ready to be turned out and hit the ground running, you're in the driver's seat, because that is what buyers are looking for right now. Let's talk about your board to open the wheat. On Monday, December live cattle futures down 27 cents at 186.50. Your live cattle, we've seen a lot of resistance here because of our wholesale beef prices have had a hard time gaining any more ground, but they're not losing a lot. February was down 50 cents, which is still not a lot, but your December spot live cattle futures at 186.5. That's just about where our weighted average for last week's market was, and it was a little bit higher. So we're still sitting in line with our live cattle futures, but February was down 50 cents at 187.70. Your back months were down as much as 30 cents, and that was on your nearbys, to up as much as a quarter, and that was on the farthest out. But your feeder cattle is where we continue to see this boost. And even though our cattle and feed report was neutral to slightly bearish, nobody even remembers what that thing said after we saw the border being shut down, and then now with additional resistance to anything coming across the border, it's going to keep going, guys. January feeder cattle up $1.17 on Monday at 255.47. March up $1.20 at 254.32. Your back months were up as little as a nickel, and that was on the farthest out traded month a year from now, to up as much as 122 closer nearby. Your grains, December corn down 3/4 cent a bushel at 424 3/4. January beans up 2 1/4 cent a bushel at 985 3/4. Hard red winter wheat for March down 8.5 cents a bushel at 535 3/4. Now look at your weighted average on last week's negotiated fed cattle trade, brought to you by Legacy Beef Cooperative. That's being set up to pay cattle producers based off of the wholesale beef market and not the slightly traded cash fed cattle market as a base. But you look at and see last week we sold 50,800 head negotiated sales in your 5-area feeding region, which is slight, but it was for a holiday week that we're in right now. So that's how come it was so slight. The previous week was 58,600 for a regular week, so it wasn't too bad. Then the same week a year ago was 38,700, and a year ago this was the holiday week. That was the holiday week a year ago, was last week. So you see we're hanging kind of in there on very tight trade of negotiated cash, but at least holding them together a little bit. But live sales of fat steers and heifers last week ranged in price from 183 to 188. That was $1 to $2 higher. Your weighted average on live sales in the 5 area was 186.39. I told you your December live cattle contracts are 186.50, so even just a little bit higher than that. But that weighted average was $1.60 higher than the previous week. So pretty decent gain, and it was all late in the week on Friday, started by the Fed Cattle Exchange online market platform there that sold cattle at 187, which was $2 higher than we'd seen all week. And then we had some more cattle follow suit to that. But your dress trade last week ranged from $288 to $300, mostly $290 to $292. But that was steady to $1 higher. Weighted average on dress steers was up 72 cents compared to the previous week's weighted average at $291.56. As a whole, your Southern Plains sold 1 to 2 higher from 186 to mostly 187 late. Northern Plains sold steady to $3 higher from 185 to 188, and steady mostly on dressed at 290. Now nationwide we sold 67,300. You say, why are you always talking about the negotiated sales? They're the only ones that make a difference, guys. All the other ones don't have any competition, no transparency or anything. So all we have to talk about is your negotiated sales, and they continue to dwindle and dwindle and dwindle. The Biden administration made like they were going to try to do something about it with the packers and stockyards and be able for them to enforce the regulations a little more. They just talked about it, and that's all they ever did was talk. Nothing ever happened. We're not expecting any white knight to come out on this new administration because they are pro-business. But so, I don't know what we're going to do if we eventually don't have any negotiated trade at all. But that would be as much of a problem for packers as it would be for the industry. So, but 67,300 negotiated nationwide last week compared to 74,100 the previous week, and 51,300 the same week a year ago, which I told you was a holiday week. Of that 67,300 nationwide, about 17,600 or 26% of them were purchased for the 15 to 30 or 2 to 4 week delivery. Your grid-based sales totaled 38,300 head last week. Forward contracts were written on 41,500 head, and formula sales 243,400 head. Of the 4 out of 5 areas that we get information from, negotiated sales, Iowa sold 28,100. Of course, they've got the best cattle in the world, best finished fed cattle in the world, and they still sell the highest percentage by far in a negotiated cash basis. Nebraska sold 14,200 last week negotiated. Kansas only 5,300, and Texas only 3,200 out of all those cattle. Probably 100,000 head sold last week in the Texas Panhandle. Most of them all formula. Only 3,200 on a negotiated cash basis. New Holland Sales Stables Fat Cattle Auction back east in Pennsylvania sold their fat steers 193 to 204 on Monday. Box beef cutout values were higher to start the week. Choice cuts up $2.30 at 309.71. Selects up 167 at 273.74. Your slaughter started out pretty decent for a holiday week, 120,000 estimated slaughter on Monday. That was 2,000 better than last week, 4,000 lighter than the same week a year ago. Now, last week was our heaviest beef production week that we've seen so far this year. And you're thinking, really? Is that true? Yeah. We ended up with 630,000 last week estimated slaughter, and with the big heavy carcasses that we've got, that was the biggest beef production week we've seen so far this year. So they should have plenty of product to sell there, and gaining over $2 on choice cuts to start the week out is not too bad, especially in a week where everybody's concentrated on turkey. But let's talk about your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DVAuction, based on an 800-pound cash auction steer up through your middle 12 states. And it's a 7-day moving average, just like your CME cash feeder cattle index. But your RTI after the sales closed on Monday was sitting at 255.24, up 33 cents. The latest CME cash feeder cattle index, 254.72. Big sale here today at Unionville Livestock Market in Unionville, Missouri. It's their Thanksgiving special. Going to have 2,500 head or better. They'll be as fancy a cattle as you can find anywhere here today on Tuesday, and you can find them on DVAuction.com. Let's talk about your big sales on Monday. Oklahoma National Stockyards in Oklahoma City had 6,300. Check out these trends, guys. And this is from a place that caters to your corporate buyers, your big order buyers that are buying for big outfits and for corporates for their turnout cattle. Feeders $4 to $10 higher, spots $15 higher, calves $10 to $15 higher, spots $20 higher. Talk about sharply higher at the Oklahoma National Stockyards. And then a stick out deal out of Oklahoma City was 55 steer calves. Little stockers weighed 482, bring 370 in Oklahoma City. Not talking about up there where you get farmer feeders that kind of lose their mind or anything. These are seasoned professional order buyers that are pushing calves to these levels, guys. That's how strong it is, this demand for stockers. But you got to be impressed with Joplin Regional Stockyards. Had a yearling special on Monday with 12,000 head, and it was like 175 loads of yearlings, and then the balance mostly weaned calves. Look at the trends there. You know, the market reporter, he just called it $5 to $20 higher, with spots as much as 30 higher, especially on 5 weights and especially on the 5-weight heifers. I mean, that is you don't see trends any higher than that, and you don't see it in November in the fall of the year, guys. But my gosh, Joplin just markets so many cattle in there, and the prices are as high as you'll find anywhere. And because when you have big runs like that, they've got a lot of commodity cattle, but they've also got really fancy cattle too, and they can get the price for them. But Joplin was your National Beef Wire stick out sale of the day. This is your market, guys, and I left the changes on there from the previous week's weighted average. Look how sharply higher it was. You can't blame the market reporter there. But how about your best tested weights? 643 head of 5-weight steers averaged 544 pounds with a weighted average price of $296.17. 959 head of 6-weight steers averaged 648 with a weighted average price on all of them of $273.21. There was 1,584 head of 7-weight steers at Joplin Regional Stockyards. They averaged 739 pounds with a weighted average price of $258.18. Now look at your 8 weights. 3,285. There's a jillion sale barns out there that would love to someday sell 3,285 cattle. Joplin sold 3,285 head of 8-weight steers. They averaged 845 pounds with a weighted average price on all of them of $257.11, weighing nearly 8.5, 3,300 head of them, selling $2 higher than your real-time index. Very impressive, guys. 1,272 head of 9-weight steers averaged 941, weighted average price $242.86. Look at some heifer groups that were well tested. 461 head of 4-weight heifers averaged 467, weighted average price $278.49. 654 head of 5-weight heifers averaged 558 at $271.90. 790 head of 6-weight heifers averaged 668 at $251.73, and 907 head 7-weight heifers, Joplin Regional Stockyards in Carthage, Missouri. They averaged 751, weighted average price $243.23. Very impressive market there at Joplin, especially under such heavy receipts. How about some individual quotes from all around? Callaway Livestock Center in Kingdom City, Missouri, up there in the middle part of Missouri there. Jack Harrison sells 58 steers, weighed 912 pounds at $253. Next best quote, or next biggest quote I saw was Joplin Regional Stockyards. Again, had to talk about them. I mean, where else do you hear quotes like this on 12,000 head? 62 steers, weighed 800 pounds smooth, and bring $277 in Joplin. $22 over your index, guys, based on 800 pounds, and these were 800 pounders. My goodness. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Monday, in your Macrocin, no BS, top quote for the day, come out of Russell Livestock Market, another DVAuction broadcaster, our friends up there in Russell, Iowa. They sell 76 steers, weighed 706 at $294. And that's your feeder flash for Tuesday.